Good afternoon and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus, to another Daily Corvid show. So we're going to do something a bit different today. I haven't got a particular topic, but in light of the stream that I did the other day on Manny Sinder's channel, check that out if you're interested, I'll post the link. We were talking about Islam. Should Islam be banned from the UK, if and when, and how we're going to do that? We had voices on both sides. I do feel like we did convince the whole panel by the end to agree that this is a good idea. And then the sticking point was enforcement. How do we enforce a complete ban of Islam in this country? So that's what I want us to think about today. In terms of Britain, in terms of British culture, you and me and our families, how we're going to live in our country moving forward, how would we go about enforcing a complete ban of Islam? Now, I know there's going to be some naysayers, some dissenting voices in the audience, and that's fine. We're a democratic country with liberal Christian values. That means we can have voices on either side shouting and arguing with each other about these hot topics, and then at the end shake hands and go off and not murder each other in cold blood. Islam, take note, that is how civilized people conduct themselves. So with that in mind, what I want to do is touch on some of the topics and some of the kind of segmented things we need to discuss in order to make our country safe and sort of separate the threat of Islam from our experience in this country. And we can also see what's kicking off in the Middle East. Like, what was the last video I did? I did a video saying Islam doesn't understand peace. This Gaza peace deal's false. It will not last. And I got criticised down to the hilt. People said, Daily Corvid, you're a racial baiting inciter of hate. But here we are, 8, 9, 10 days later now, 10 days later, and we can see that that peace is very fragile and it isn't going to last. Now, I would have loved it had it lasted. I really would. No one wants peace. Well, probably some people do want peace more than me, but not many people want peace more than me. I'm being careful not to do the Trump thing. I am the most humble guy ever. You've never met anyone more humble than me. It's like, I'm probably not the most peaceful guy ever, but I'm in the top 20, okay? I'm up there. So I would like peace to be a thing, and I just don't think that's realistic. Why don't I think that's realistic? Well, because I have extensively read the Bible, and I'm a Christian. I believe Christian prophecy, and I've seen it come true over my life. And also the Quran here. I have studied the Quran extensively, so I can tell you the way that a Muslim, just a general stock, generic Muslim off the street, like an NPC Muslim, the way that an NPC Muslim views the world, Britain, Westerners, you and I, is described in the Quran. That's where they get that from, right? So we know whether it's a moderate, Islam, an everyday cultural Muslim, or whether it's a very extreme, London mosque Islamist who wants to go and do a jihad right now. Whether it's either one of those types of a Muslim, we know because they use the term Muslim, we're going to find the description of what they are, who they are, and what they believe in this book, the Quran. And they will deny this. We know taqiyya, we know permissible lying, we know they treat us as dhimmi slaves, unwilling slaves of Allah or willing slaves of Allah. And ultimately, we are not like them. They call us kufir, dirty foreigners, unbelievers. So with all that considered, how do we go about making our country safe? Safer than it was even 50 years ago, before the Islam problem was on the rise. Because even though many of us are too young to remember, myself included, after the Second World War, there was a little bit of a kind of mini renaissance in the country, if you like. People were sick of war. People were sick of having these aggressive interactions with other countries, and real diversity was achieved. Now, they didn't call it diversity because it was just everyday life, and nobody resisted it. There was no such thing as systematic racism. Black Lives Matter wouldn't have been a thing because we had loads of black people living here from all different countries, and they were part of the Commonwealth. They were part of the British Empire, and we didn't see them any differently. However, roll forward to now, 50 years later, they see us differently. That's what's happened. We don't see black people differently. Black people see us differently. Arabs, we don't see them differently. They see us differently. And I feel like the reason why this has become a problem is primarily because of Islamic Quranic morality being forcibly applied to our country. So if you feel like that isn't a good thing for yourself, your family, or this country as a whole, you are in the right place. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So, what has the effect been in this country of Islam becoming prominent? Well, I can tell you, when I was younger, I went to a private school. I was lucky enough to be sent to a private school, and I was like the only Jew boy in the room. Now, I was an atheist, right? My parents brought me up as an atheist. They're both atheists. Ethnically, I'm Jewish, and I look like a Jewish kid, right? I had the kind of broccoli head, and, I just look like a Jewish kid. I do. Quite a good looking one at that, but that's what I look like. So I'm in my school, and they sit me between two Muslims on purpose, right? Because in their head, they're thinking, oh, they just need to get to know each other, and they'll be friends, and they're naive towards it. And I can tell you that's not what happened. I didn't have a good time at all being sat between two different types of Muslims, and they didn't like each other much either, right? One of them was from Turkey, Sinan, and one of them was from Saudi Arabia. His father was Pakistani and his mum was from Saudi Arabia, so he was a, what are they called where they wear the funny letterbox outfit? He was one of those, like an extreme Muslim. And the Sinan, the Turkish guy, dressed the same as me, but he had a Quran on him and he was a Muslim. And the thing that they both bonded over, despite not liking each other, was agreement that I should be exterminated and that my head should be removed. Now, bear in mind, at this point, I am 6-7 years old. I don't know anything about Jews or Muslims or the Quran. Don't know much about anything at that age. But what tended to happen was these two guys would collaborate to try and get me into as much trouble as they could. And the effect was it actually ruined my education there. I was expelled for fighting with one of them, Tanvir, the Saudi Arabian Pakistani chap. I was actually expelled, and they said I was violent to him, right? So that's what the record would say, is I got expelled for fighting, being violent against him, and the reason he gave was because he was a Muslim. So that's what the record would say, even today. But I can tell you, with the benefit of hindsight, I didn't even know what Islam was. I didn't know what a Muslim was. I certainly didn't know that he was one. And the reason I ended up having many fights with this guy is because he was constantly picking away at me and provoking me and baiting me with the intent of me being seen to attack him, right? So he was trying to manufacture false blame and accusations on me, trying to ruin my reputation to make me look like an aggressive racist. And he was successful in doing this because I didn't see it coming. I'm a 6-7-year-old kid. There's no way I would have known that was going to happen unless my parents had taught me out of the Bible that I could expect that, or my teachers had had the foresight, and not been so politically naive, and they had separated us to different corners of the room. So there is your first issue with Islam. Even with children, the only way you're going to make society work with Jews, atheists, and Muslims is to separate them to opposite ends of the room, or the country. Segregation is what we call that. So we know in order for Islam to integrate, it's not integrating, in order for Islam to exist as a separate thing inside the British culture and not have inherent violence, segregation is now a requirement. And that means the British melting pot value of a liberal democracy, having everyone equal and living next door to each other like we saw in London, pre-2000s London, where you had Chinese guys, you had Muslims, you had Turks and Caicos, African guys, Australians, white people, Ukrainians, everybody you can think of living there happily. That no longer happened because of Islamic terrorism in the world coming here and affecting politics, and then we have Muslims in our government who are directly motivating that racial divide. So if we are the people, even though we can vote, we don't get to have a say in anything. Sometimes, like with the Palestine recognition thing, they don't even ask us what we feel like, they just do the thing. But if we, the people, are the population, we are the society, right? This whole country is made of us. It's not made of politicians. Politicians can pull the strings and the BBC can propagandize to try and change our minds, propagandize us. But we have to make the decision for ourselves how we're going to react to people and how we are going to behave. If we, the people, make up 99% of this country, then it means if we take responsibility for how we behave, how we treat other people, and the rules we enforce, then we can actually put this country right as far as our own community. And that is how we need to defeat this Islamic invasion. That's where they target. That is where Islam has targeted small rural communities, borough councils, and low-level politicians. And they've been working their way up from there. It's the same within companies. I've had 2 different doctor surgeries where I was kicked out for no reason, or I had terrible issues trying to get hold of medication simply because there was a Muslim on the staff and they were very interested in making my life difficult. You know, and under that situation, what can you do? You can make a formal complaint and they will make sure, like we saw in my school career, they will engineer false blame and then get rid of you if they can't continue to attack you. And that's what we see. So, my point is this. Islam is here to stay, is what we are told. We don't have any choice in the matter, and getting rid of them would be an impossible enforcement task, is also what we're made to think. But I beg to differ. And I would invite you or anyone who sees this video to come and have a conversation with me on email, WhatsApp, by phone, email, or on here on live stream. If you have the courage and the will and the determination to put your country right, this country, if you want to volunteer for that job, please come and see me and we will start putting a team together to see what we can do about this, when we can do it, and how we're going to go about enforcing British law, British culture, Christian values, decent liberal democracy and moral values, and extricate and disappear the influence of Quranic morality and law, the Quran and Islam. So, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless you all. Hit me up in the comments and I'll see you lovely people in the next one. Bye now.